4 days and counting. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are on, well, blitzes of the battleground states, respectively, trying to win over as many last-minute voters as may exist. They are campaigning in Ohio and Pennsylvania today. Hillary Clinton also making a stop in Michigan. Donald Trump also a stop in New Hampshire. All this as a new national poll shows this, a 3-point lead for Clinton over Trump in a four-way race, which it is. To break all of it down, CBSN political contributors Hogan, Gidley, and Liz Smith. Hogan's a Republican strategist. Liz is a Democratic strategist, and they're great friends and color coordinators.
But we're both wearing blue.
Terrific.
Both
color
blue.
coordination
That's
was
right.
lovely. Well, when we last left our heroes yesterday, at least there was some common bipartisan ground upon which you existed. I suppose we're about to run from that. But I want to begin with what we're seeing now from both candidates. The referendums on the other, it has grown, even in this election cycle, perhaps even more zero-sum and nasty in these days recent. And this comes against CBS polling that shows 82% of registered voters are disgusted by this race. So in what I'm told is a turnout election by experts like yourself, how to square those two ideas?
82% are disgusted, 13% are excited. I want to know who the 13% are.
Seriously, it's like being excited about like Gidley or like Godfather 3 or something. It's like what,
Gidley, that was a good
it's
poll.
like you need to get your head checked if you're excited by this election.
I don't get it. I mean, this has been kind of nasty from the get-go. It's been divisive from the get-go. We had, 16 candidates on the Republican side. We had names like Little Marco, Lion Ted, Low Energy Jeb. And then, of course, we had someone like Bernie Sanders calling Hillary Clinton corrupt, getting about 47% of the vote on the Democrat side. The nation is clearly divided. And for me, whoever wins this race, it's going to be fascinating to see what they can do to try and put the pieces back together once in office. Very difficult for either one of these folks to do because they enter into office with a country that's so polarized. It was polarized back. We saw Gore and Bush, for heaven's sakes. I mean, it was very narrow in that election too. So it's still been divided, but there's been no bridging in the last 8 years, and so it's going to be very interesting to see which of these candidates' talents are going to be best suited to bring the country together.
Yeah.
And so, and Liz, I guess I wonder too, specifically with regard to turnout.
Yeah.
We've heard, Hillary Clinton is going to need that Obama coalition, and that doesn't just mean demographically, it means the numbers that turned out, numbers that in some cases, at least in terms of early voting, we're not seeing yet. So again, how to square these two?
Well, I would disagree with you a little bit on some of the early.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at Florida. Already, more Latinos have turned out in Florida in early voting.
However monolithic, there's been a Hispanic surge in states across.
And that shows you this. Look, we've come a long way from hope and change in the Democratic Party, and Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are kind of both operating on the belief that hate will be the greatest motivator for their voters, and it seems to be working with Latino voters. She really talked very little about any issues of import to the Latino community this cycle. And frankly, it's a big disappointment to me that when she's running against a guy who supports deportation task forces, mass deportation raids, building a wall, that she couldn't even, put a few lines in her speeches.
Why do you suppose that is?
Why do I suppose that is? I think it's not an issue that comes naturally to her. She's not a natural progressive. This is an issue where she has changed her rhetoric very much over the last 8 years. In 2008, she was against driver's licenses for undocumented immigrants. She was for building a fence, and I'm going to get in trouble with some Democrats now.
She actually built it with Bill Clinton back in the 90s.
But we've seen, though, that she's getting 79% of the Latino vote, which is a higher percentage than Barack Obama got in 2012.
So they're
turning out, even though she's not inspiring.
Right.
But they're not kind of turning out. It's up like 137% in Florida. It's a massive number. But she did mention immigration because she mentioned she wanted open borders. So there is not necessarily a policy other than just let everybody in, a 550% increase in refugees. She wants that, okay? So there is some of that what she actually wants, but we haven't really litigated that particular fact as it relates to her.
I saw that more as a trade and economic argument than an immigration one, but
Right.
we're entitled to our different opinions.
Right, which is fine, which is the one reason we have stagnant wages and our jobs are going overseas, and the reason people can't make a living in this country.
In the last year,
so
we
that's part of
had
the deal.
the largest year-to-year increase in wages in 50 years.
That's like being the skinniest kid at fat camp. You don't go going from 0 to 1 doesn't make you be able to provide for your family. It's still bad.
Okay, but so let's getting back to the topic at hand, especially as regards to early turnout. And it was a sample size of one, but our Nancy Cordes said today that she spoke to a voter in North Carolina who voted early in part because she just didn't want her door knocked on twice a day. So there is a sense, even in the folks turning out, perhaps, that they're turning out so that they don't get told to turn out anymore. But I also wonder this, just in terms of, let's say, the undecided voters. We see 8%, that number, which in something that could be, we're seeing all these races narrowing, especially in battleground states. Those 8% could turn things, right? That's a margin of error number. Perhaps then the idea of effective governance might be the thing that makes me, if I'm still up in the air 4 days out, do I look at this and say, who do I think can actually start doing a job as a president come November 9th? And when you hear Jason Chaffetz saying there are going to be years of investigations, when you hear Ted Cruz saying he sees precedent for fewer than 9 Supreme Court judges ad infinitum, when you hear talks of impeachment before an election takes place, is Donald Trump, does he benefit?
Does Donald Trump scream effective governance to you? Does he scream competence to you?
I'm in an election that both candidates have made about the other.
Yes.
I'm saying that it's very clear that Hillary Clinton, if elected president, is going to find it very difficult to effectively govern come November 9th.
That's true, but if effective governance were a top issue for voters in this election, I don't think either of these two would be the nominees.
She's right about that. I was going to say, because Hillary doesn't scream effective governance for me either. I mean, look, we're talking about someone who didn't get anything done in the U.S. Senate except renaming a post office or highway or whatever it was. But let's go back to some numbers we're talking about, and this is interesting to me. Hillary Clinton's going to get 95% of the African-American vote, if not more, maybe even 98%. But let's talk about percentages versus actual numbers. 95% of 1,000 versus 95% of 100,000 is a much bigger deal. So I think the Latinos are probably going to turn out and supplant some of the African-American downtick in this election. And even Obama, who won with about, I think, 131 million people voted in that election, it went down in that midterm, or that re-election to about 126. So we saw about a 5 million drop off there. I don't know where we're going to be as far as the turnout for this election. It seems so depressing and people are so angry. I don't know if that's an effective motivator to get people out here right now. And I don't think they're looking at governance. I think they want something changed. We saw this in the Democrat side and the Republican side. One of the biggest drivers to the polls was that they wanted something different, that they wanted an outsider to come in and change something. I don't know if that ends up happening because Hillary may end up winning the election, but that's what they wanted early on.
Yeah, and just to the point of black voters, we saw Hillary Clinton yesterday speak the most that she has this entire cycle about criminal justice reform. She talked about ending the school to prison pipeline, improving police community relations, and that's basically been completely absent from her speeches in recent months. Now we see her, the Obamas going out heavy for her, Jay-Z, Beyonce. So they're clearly making a last-minute push, and it can work. It could work.
Did she use the term super predators in that last push, or was that before?
She's apologized for that. She apologized for that. But you know what? Donald Trump never apologized for the Central Park 5.
Let's bring it to camera, too, as this goes off the rails. Hogan, Gidley, and Liz Smith. As always, we do appreciate it. They're going to be here all day. So that's just part one of a